goes back to that comment you made yesterday on John Bowe being the widest car in the field. He's still doing it after 30 years. The run on board with Gomersall once again as he chases Andrew Miedeke. There's your leaderboard, bottom of the screen now. The gap 2.4 seconds between Johnson and Bowe. Further half a second back to Abel Nisa. Some of the cars right outside the top 10. Charlie O'Brien still leading the Trans Am cars ahead of Ian Mason. Back to Tobin, 10K, Bishop and Collins.
And there goes Andrew Miedeke down the inside of Albanese. So Jason Gromersall's going to try and find a way through as well. But it's Andrew Miedeke now. Obviously that early pace struggled. But as that car's now getting faster, the race is going on. He's finding that form he had in race 1 and 2.
So settle down for now. Lap 7. They're off to Sydney for their next round, as I said. NZ Touring Car Masters before we see them at Bathurst later this year. And Gomersall, you think Abel Nisa might have used the best of his tyres now and just starting to fall back into the clutches of the second Tirana here.
Albanese may have had a lot of tyre pressure on early in the race to get that early pace out of the car. He managed to find himself up in that first opening lap, right up there in P2, giving Stephen Johnson a hard time. But as the race goes on, now starting to slip back a little. Pace just isn't quite there. As you can see, Stephen Johnson now out in front, doing 16.8. So he's actually opening up an even bigger gap over John Bowe, who's in P2.
This went past Michael Ubergang to put him a lap down. I spoke to John English in between the two races, who owns that car, and a change of gearbox after yesterday's incident. Hopefully we'll get this car home to the checkered flag. So right on board with Jason Gomersall once again. Completion of lap 7. It's on the back of Eddie Abel Nisa now, who's driving defensively. They're Brisbane's cheapest cars entry.
Very tall first gear in that car. You can see how he's using first, second gear there. So clearly without the standing start, they can run a fairly tall first gear that allows them to use all 4 gears when you're out in the racetrack. Usually your first gear is something you couldn't use at a circuit like this, but it allows Jason to use the full extent of the gearbox. And that's where you can see him down the inside now. He's going to have a look off turn 2. If he can get a good run, he'll put himself in a strong position for an outbrake manoeuvre. And there it is. He's got a bit of a good run. That Falcon will open up a small gap down the back straight. But Jason should have enough to be able to get down under brakes.
There's that first gear. Revs right out in the turn 3. Championship-wise, Andrew Miedeke is leading by 42 points as Gomersall just crosses up the IC Tirana. We saw it live coming out of turn 3. Miedeke leading by 42 points back to Jim Richards, who's in a quiet weekend. As I say that, sticks to Shannon's insurance entry down the inside of Gomersall, who's recovering from that little scare down there in turn 3.
Jim Richards, sorry, was right underneath Jason Gomersall's rear bumper there as he got sideways. So Jimmy just got the job done, got past him and got on with it, and see if he can now chase down Albanese in the Falcon.
So it puts him up into 5th. Miedeke is 3rd, so he'll extend it out by another 30 points, you'd think, by the time the weekend comes to a conclusion here. Miedeke's been about consistency this year in the championship. That's why he's leading. Winner on the streets of Adelaide this year. Inside the top 3 this weekend. Gomersall, who just rode on board with him. This is what it looked like outside the IC Tirana. Oh, that was fairly big in the end.
That was a fairly big moment. Jim Richards didn't know where to go. He was right in behind, and all of a sudden there was the side of the Tirana he was looking at. And that's why the next corner he just got the job done, got past Jason, who's clearly struggling a little bit, those little mistakes. I've just looked at the timesheet. It's interesting to see that John Bowe now has actually done his fastest lap that last lap and is now starting to close the gap to Stephen Johnson.
So 1:16.85, quickest lap of the race back on lap 2 as we go back to some action with Ian Palmer squeezing Rusty French right down to the bottom. We saw him out in Sports GT racing this weekend too as part of our coverage. Double duties. And of course that Mustang, he never brings out a dud car, does he?
No, this morning when we were wandering around the pit area at 7 a.m, that car was out and there's people taking photos of it everywhere. Is it a beautiful car? It's more like a show car than a race car. I did actually find one little scratch on it, which I was very disappointed about when we had a look at it this morning. But it's very exciting to see that car out there. It's only new. Rusty French debuted this car at Winton, obviously, that weekend. And this weekend, as you say, he's racing around the Porsche in Sport GT and the Touring Car Masters in that gorgeous 69 Mustang.
He's sitting back there currently in 16th. He got himself up towards the top 10 in race 2 this a bit in this race. We go back to the leaders. There is the leaderboard. 1.4 seconds now, so JB just starting to eat into Johnson's lead on lap 10.
That's a consequence of the tyre condition over the course of the weekend. 3 races, the big Mustang, the bigger cars, all the big horsepower, they work that rear tyre hard. As you can see now, JB in that lighter, he's got the smaller engine, but the lighter Tirana has been able to do the job. Jason Gromisel the same here, trying to find a way now past Jim Richards.
This guy's had a great weekend, apart from that little half spin he had at turn 3, Jason Gromisel. V8 Utes experience. It's his company, iSeek, that did a lot in IT, very successful in that industry. It's back to the leaders, and John Bowe is closer. It's 7/10 of a second now. We've got a 2-lap screamer on our hands here. You can see the little knock in the door of Mustang Sally from that earlier incident in race number 2.
There's an indication of the pace. John Bowe, green on lap 7, green on lap 8, green on lap 9, lap 10, nearly 8/10 of a second faster. And that's where that gap now is closed down to half a second.
This is Collins, one of the Trans Am cars, getting sideways down there at turn 2, a replay from a previous lap. He's just eating away at the back of Mustang Sally. John Bowe can sniff victory here.
Oh yeah, you can see that John Bowe's car's turning. You can see it turning in the middle of turn 3 there. And Stephen Johnson's running that little bit wide. So that's a little bit of pace that John Bowe car has got. It's down to 3/10 of a second. Who cares what the gap is? You can see him in the mirror now. It's that close. And you can hear him. There's a sense that JB's going to have a go here and try and find a way through.
So 1 to go when they come past the start-finish line here. Will Johnson hold on for another clean sweep, or has John Bowe got an answer for us? 2 goes at the corner. The 18 Tirana, and this is the final lap of the weekend, the NZ Touring Car Masters here in Queensland.
Stephen Johnson now looking in the mirror, having a look at where JB is. He knows he's there. He can sense it, he can feel it. He's got to get this nice and clean, this run. Oh, there's a car off on the left. He's got to get this run down on the back straight, nice and clean, because this is where John Bowe's best opportunity is, down into turn 2, out of turn 2 into turn 3. As you can see there, John Bowe's tucked right in behind Stephen Johnson. The last lap, can he do it?
It's Bishop that went off as Johnson drives to the inside. He's going to make JB go to the outside. Only a couple more passing chances here for Bowe. It's closer than ever to Mustang Sally.
John Bowe cuts on the inside. That car turns well. Now they're going to drag race side by side up to turn 4. John Bowe's going to be on the wrong side of the corner, though. He's going to have to cut back underneath and see if he can get there for turn 5.
It's been great all season long. He's going to try the switchback. Johnson knows this was coming. Final left-hander, and the run down to the final turn for Stephen Johnson, with Bowe all over the back of him.
Stephen Johnson touching the dirt there. You can see him pushing hard. The Mustang running out of tyres. 1 corner to go.
Oh, moment, lock break then for Bowe. I think it's not going to be enough. Johnson slides his way out the final turn. It's going to be another clean sweep as Bowe pulls out, tries to throw everything at Johnson, and he's just going to hold on to it.
1/10 of a second. There's not much in that at all.
Back to Abel Nisa, who dropped back to 4th. In the end, Medicare will get 3rd. Jim Richards narrowly misses out on a top 4 finish there. Gomersall was next. We go back to Mark King. What a finish. This was the moment for the 68 car that went off in the background when the leaders were coming through. And just understeered massively off on the Trans Am cars.
He's got it, he's got it, he's got it, he's got it.
Or has he?
And then that car obviously rejoins the circuit, does a complete 180 spin again around, but a good save.
Oh dear. And lucky that happened then, because the leaders were only about 100 metres behind here. Imagine that unfold in front of them. Wow. For the Trans Am cars, a big thanks to them this weekend for supporting the NZ Touring Car Masters. But it was all about Stephen Johnson as he pulls up alongside John Bowe. They've turned it on once again. Another clean sweep for Stephen Johnson. As he said, his short career, his percentage rate of wins, quite staggering. We check out the results. Final race of the weekend. Johnson from Bowe, just 1/10 of a second at the end. Medicki in 3rd. Abel Nisa 4th. Richards, Gomersall, Mark King, Tony Karanfilowski, Charlie O'Brien, another 9th position. And Rusty French got himself into 10th. Back to Palmer, Mason, Leo Tobin, Back to Anthony Tenkate, Alan Bishop, who made the highlights reel then, and Michael Ubergang, the final finisher down there in the John English entry.